Hello, guys and girls, and welcome to episode 50 of the FReality Podcast. We have just hit the big 5-0, and of course, we couldn't celebrate without having some sort of technical issues, so I do apologize for that. But it is a reminder that this is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show that is live streamed every Saturday on this very YouTube channel. You can also check out the live stream on our Twitch and our Facebook. You can tune into the show live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, and 12 midday in central US. If you missed the live stream, don't worry, you can catch up with the whole show as I re-upload it every Sunday to this very YouTube channel. Or you can check out the audio version, which is available on Google Play Music, iTunes, and on SoundCloud. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback during the show, please put them in the chat and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can. Now, if you're new to the show, let me introduce you to the team. First up, this guy, he loves nothing more than to make beautiful music for dolphins, of course. It is Nathy. How you doing, dude? You all right?
Yeah, I am. I was a bit confused just a second ago, so I just ate my cookie quickly because I didn't finish it yet. So for me, this shutdown for a second was fine, so I could just finish my delicious cookie. Yeah.
So you're having a good time.
Is that a metaphor?
They're like, help, panic, and I'm just like, hey, wait a second, I didn't finish my cookie. So that's what I was doing there.
As long as you're all right, that's the main thing.
I know. So, but it's good to be back. Yes.
Good to hear. So next up, he's been temporarily slowed down, but the fastest YouTuber alive will be back on track soon. In his brand new studio, that is. How you doing, Rowdy?
Yeah, right? I'm doing all right. You know, I've been hard at work, like trying to get everything running and trying to get everything back as it's supposed to be. But yeah, it's been a rough week for me. A very rough week. Just a lot of dust everywhere. I do get like the room a little bit together. I managed to clear out some stuff here. All the messes on the floor, so you don't see all of that. It looks very clean, but trust me, it is not. It is not clean at all. None of the
We don't want that camera to pan down because we know you've got a history of not wearing any trousers when you stream. Course, so we don't want that. We don't want to have Rowdy exposed. Yeah. So next up, some people say that this guy likes to eat pixels for breakfast. It is, of course, our resident VR Twitch streamer, Zimtok5. How you doing on this fine day, dude?
Today's a good day. I like the weekend. During the week, like Rowdy, I had a bit of a shite week, but other than that, it's good to be at the weekend.
Yeah.
So better days are Saturdays.
Good to hear you're better, though. If you've had a shite week, put your hands up in the chat and let us know. We'd love to know your thoughts. So, last but by no means least, myself, the host of the show, Mike from Virtual Reality Oasis. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the PSVR Sells 3 million headsets. We discuss how this console-based VR headset is leading the pack right now and tell you its most played titles. We're also going to be talking about StarVR. We're going to tell you about the specs of this newly announced headset from Starbreeze and Acer. And then finally, we're going to be talking about Gamescom 2018, where we're going to talk about our predictions for the biggest gaming event of the summer. But first up, of course, let's find out what everyone's been playing in VR this week. And first up, let's hit it over to Zim. How's it been for you, dude? Has it been an interesting week? I know you've had a shite week, but any sort of good stuff in the VR world?
What you don't want to do after you've had a tough, stressful week where you feel like you can't breathe is to end that week and punctuate it with a game that is like Super Meat Boy for VR. Of course, I'm talking about Pixel Ripped, which I did beat yesterday. Cha-ching! I did fucking finish it, but my God, the ending of that is like it. I just saw pixels after a while, and I was like, I'm gonna die tonight. I just know that tonight is the night my life ends. But it is a beautiful game, and it is probably one of the most surprising titles this year that I've run across. I did not expect something to have transformed so magically from what was a very boxed kind of indie. Nathy will know because he played everything back in the day like I did, the boxed little indie demo into this fully fledged, like beautiful, wonderfully lengthed experience. Like it's not super long. If you're expecting super long, it's not, but I got probably 2 full shows out of it. Plus my wife was begging me to play it again. And she's like, I can't watch because I want to finish the ending. It's just such a wonderful ode to like old games and new games at the same time. I haven't seen many games do that so well.
Yeah, exactly. That sort of real dose of nostalgia that it gives you is
So
is
good.
unparalleled in VR right now. But like you say, that end boss, like not to give you any spoilers, people that are watching and haven't completed the game, but it is hard as freaking nails. It's like it totally goes with the tone of the game because obviously the games of that genre were so freaking hard as well. Like they were just almost impossible to beat. Like this isn't impossible, but it is definitely a challenge. And I think probably half the amount of time that you sink into the game will probably end up just being on the final boss alone.
But you know, like Ready Player One as a film, right? There's so many like social and past like gaming and pop culture references. This game does the same thing. So if you enjoy that kind of a look back and listening for like the little sayings, you know, the little character bits, little pixelated nathies, all that kind of stuff, you know, that game's got it. And so it's got quite a bit in there for you to explore. And actually, I don't think it's not unsurmountable either. I finished the game with, I think, 13 of the 20 cartridges after
nice.
first run through. So and one of the levels I'd completed that way just in a first run. So I think it's a very surmountable game and in a nice tidy package. So even if you're a busy fecker like me, you'll be able to take this one on. And I actually think it's totally must play. But that game was definitely the pinnacle of my week. So.
Yeah, nice. Good to hear, man. It's interesting as well because I don't know if you're aware, but there is actually a pixel ripped clone on the Oculus Go right now. Like someone's actually ripped off the whole game completely down to like the whole premise. Like you're in a classroom, there's a headmaster, you're playing on like a little Game Boy device, and it's called Pip Pat Plan. The most bizarre name ever. But yeah, they've just literally straight up ripped it off and released it on the Oculus Go store. And it kind of brings us back to a previous episode where we've talked about like the quality of the games on some of the stores right now and a lot of the fake reviews and stuff like that we're seeing. It's just like, how do they even let this stuff through the gate? It's very strange indeed.
But the title is still better than Hospital Terror Escape VR Simulator.
Yeah, it is. That game was legit.
Okay, that's true.
Okay, so let's pass it over to Nathy because I know that you've had a busy week this week preparing for Gamescom. You've probably played a lot of stuff, but what do you want to talk about?
I wanted to talk about Electronauts. We played it together. We have been jamming, and man, I mean that game is amazing. I played a little demo at E3, and playing it alone was okay, you know. And if you are not really into music, you can still jam along. It's not like you need to be a pro. It always sounds good. You can never mess a track up, right? But when I then played together with you when it was finally out, I was like, wow, this is way better than I expected. So let's say if you have friends that are interested in music or like to play together with you in VR, then Electronauts is something else, something different, co-op wise. And we could just share, right? We had different instruments we could use, and sometimes you were using a laser harp, for example, and then the next moment we were switching it up and I was trying the laser harp. So you can just make music together, and that's something we haven't really seen that much in the VR space just yet. You know, most let's be honest here, most musical experiences or rhythm-based games are usually about you playing alone. Well, this one lets you share the rhythm together. So I think that's really, really fun and interesting.
Absolutely, and plus, like we made one of the best tracks, the hottest tracks of the summer, in fact,
Exactly.
which is Dolphins of the Metaverse, and you know it's coming to iTunes soon. You know you can download it, you can just play it in your car through the high street. You know, get everyone pumped and hyped that the end of the summer is coming. You know, put your flippers up in the air if you just don't care.
We're announcing a tour soon as well. So if you're in England, Hollandland, Belgium, America, like everywhere, we're just doing the entire tour, you know. So if you want to hear
we're experiencing some technical difficulties, like.
Yeah, but no, we had a lot of fun with it, and it's just a shame that the PSVR users out there that pick up Electronauts aren't going to experience that because the PSVR version of the game is just single player only, which is a shame because I echo exactly what you said in that it's way more fun to DJ with someone else. Like we actually felt like we were like Daft Punk and really sort of like laying down those beats. You know?
I watched the video. It didn't sound like Daft Punk though, to be honest.
What are you saying, Rowdy? What are you saying? Someone kick this guy out.
Did you even play it? Did you even upload it
But
on your
of course,
channel?
I didn't play it yet.
Yeah, well then you
No,
don't
because
have an
you're
opinion.
because you're using your construction right now as an excuse. That's why. We know like Rowdy is actually faking his construction.
Didn't
Like
happen.
it's just a
Didn't
green
happen.
screen. You know, he's not sitting there at all. Like look, it looks fake. It looks fake.
But even single player, I just wanted to comment on Electronauts because I was duly impressed, and I'm a big audiophile. I have been for years, and getting especially who they got behind it. I'm really surprised. Servios, getting Stevie Aoki, getting Tiesto. I suppose they licensed the music off of these creators, but the track choices are lovely, and also some of the game mechanics, like throwing those beat grenades. When you're doing your track and the way they go off and the different samples that you have, even within kind of one container track, but then moving from track to track, even single player, I found it totally enjoyable. Again, that's another example where you might be quite hesitant to put your money down, for something like that. But wow, the quality level that Servios brought, I actually think from all of their games, they're obviously a solid performer, but Electronauts to me really stood out as, if you're into audio at all, definitely do it.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
exactly.
I
think
I've seen people doing like live jams with the program already, together with like a live band and someone playing in as an electronaut, like playing as that, and then doing a mix of that, and it sounds freaking awesome. Like it really does.
Dude,
This makes a big difference as well. If you happen to get your hands on a sub pack and stick that on your back, my God, it feels like you're in a bloody rave. It's awesome. This is for people who don't know. It's like a backpack. You wear it like a hydro pack, and it's a tactile transducer in there. So it's basically a subwoofer that you wear, and you feel it going into your body while you're going through the track. It's awesome.
And also, you might be interested in an audio game that we're going to announce that is coming up next week for PSVR as well. Then, Zim, if you're into your audio games,
Yep.
so that's coming up very soon. But let's just find out what Rowdy has been up to this week, because I know you haven't been playing that much VR stuff. But let's give us a little update on how the studio's going now.
Yeah, I got lights. See, like I got like different kind of colored lights, so that's already nice. Like it's starting to look more like a VR office room. I got my plugs already mounted in. I'll show you like really quickly here. I got my Oculus controller right there, got my lights mounted, and I also got my Oculus sensor there, and I got my base station also already mounted on that side. I still need to drill a couple of holes in this wall, and then I'll be recording ready. I still need to tidy the place up, and the bathroom is done, but nobody really cares about that. But yeah, it's starting to
nice
look
bathroom.
like a real VR room. So it's gonna be.
You have a nice bathroom. I'm jealous of your bathroom, Rowdy.
Yeah.
You posted photos.
I can't take the webcam to the bathroom yet.
Why are you not
I'm
recording
no
your
longer
videos
capable.
there? Like you should
go
record your videos
bathrooms.
there.
Actually, that's a good idea. Get some good audio there, like good acting.
Yeah.
So when are you going to get like big posters of our faces like up in the background, like a Mr. Beast like wall, like that sort of background, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I am planning on getting like some posters to decorate this wall a little bit. I don't really think I can put like a nice little drawer there, because I think it might be an issue, because if you look at this, spreading my arms out, I'm already almost touching the walls. So the room is really smaller than I used to have. So that might be an issue if I put like a little drawer there. I don't think I'm gonna do that. Maybe if I put it higher up, but then I don't think it will still be in the view.
Well, you can always ask Mike for tips, because he has been recording in a small place before, right?
Yeah. Well, I never recorded there. Like the secret was that I had wires running from there for like 5-meter extensions running into the bedroom, and I recorded in there instead. But yeah, I did have a very small area, as you know, if you're OG.
It was like you were recording in your mom's hallway. That's how it looked.
Yeah, like
people should look up older Mike videos. It's hilarious, because it's like this like face here, and then it's like a hallway that goes all the way back, like
Yeah, I used to get so many comments about it. It was unreal. It's like, where are you? You in a prison? Are you in like a toilet or something? I'm like, yeah, man, for sure.
But the real question is,
right? But then they heard your voice and they were like, this guy can't be in prison,
But the real question is, are your walls able to handle the impact of a Vive or touch control?
Not really. I mean, I posted it.
You're like,
I guess you saw that picture that I posted on Twitter. And a lot of people asking, like, did that really happen? Like, did that really, like, people were like texting me, like, did you really hit a hole in your wall with your controller? I was like, nah, I don't hit that hard yet, like.
Imagine like you're walking through Rowdy's hallway and then suddenly there's like a hand coming through the wall with like a controller. You're like, okay, well, I don't know what is happening in that room, but I'm gonna be careful.
It'd be like a scene out of The Shining, you know. His fiance is sitting there watching
Here
TV. He's
comes
like,
Rowdy!
"Here's Rowdy." Someone needs to Photoshop that for us and put that up in the memes.
Yeah, Photoshop me as like going through as going through the door in The Shining, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my,
exactly.
beware,
With a Vive
beware.
controller. instead of
Here's
an axe.
Rowdy.
Yeah, just Photoshop Rowdy instead of me as a Home Alone character.
That was the best. That was the best one so far.
God.
That was the best one. So let's talk about what I played this week. So this week, me and Nathy played a lot of stuff together. Like you mentioned, we played Electrolots. We played a load of other stuff as well. But the one that really stood out more than any of the other games that we played was Downward Spiral, Horror Station. Now, like previously, I kind of stayed clear of this game because I kind of got it confused with that other game called Detached, which is also like a zero-G sort of space adventure. Because I remember playing that game for like 10 minutes and I got like motion sick almost instantly. However, that's not the case with this game, which is Downward Spiral. The movement is actually very similar to that of Lone Echo. So if you've played Lone Echo, where you can grab items and then sort of pull yourself along the environment in zero gravity, then it's kind of a similar vibe to that. But it's also got a sort of grappling hook that you can fire, and then it pulls you along on a zip line, which is really fun to use and a great way to sort of navigate around the space station. You don't really get much in terms of story. You just kind of get it through exploration and reading stuff that is laying about. You get some guns as well, so you can fight off some enemies, some robotic enemies that want to sort of take you down. And they do mix up the gameplay a little bit with some stealth elements as well that we found in the first act. But the best thing about this game was playing it together, you know, and a bit like what Nathy said with Electronauts, playing this game with another person or a friend that you play with regularly is going to make it way more fun, way more interesting, and it will probably entice you to keep going back for more to complete the rest of the act, because playing it together was brilliant. And I was really surprised at how polished the game was, especially when it comes to the end of the first act. I was like, actually, this is legit. Like, I really want to go back and play some more of this. And there's actually 7 to 8 acts in total, so the game length is probably going to be like 8 or 9 hours long. But like I say, you know, the story's a bit lacking. You know, everything's kind of a bit of like a watered down version of Lone Echo. But if you've got a friend that plays with you regularly, then I would definitely recommend playing this one co-op and checking it out. It's only available on Steam right now. It actually released way back in May, so it's been out for some time. But you can play it on the Rift, the Vive, Windows Mixed Reality headsets as well. And yeah, it's available for $14.99 in British pounds, $99 in US dollars. So yeah, if you're interested and you've got a friend to check it out, then that's the one I'd recommend this week to go and to have a look at.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's what we've been playing this week in VR. I'd love to know in the chat as well if you've been playing anything interesting this week. Please put your comments in there and we'll try to read as many as we can. But let's move on to some quick news this week. And first up, we're going to be talking about Stormland. So this week, Oculus and Insomniac announced that they'll be publicly showing off this year's most anticipated Oculus Rift title, and that is, of course, Stormland at PAX West. Now, if you're not aware of this highly ambitious title, it's an open-world action-adventure game where you take the role of a robot gardener that has been left for dead by a new threat that comes and invades your planet. Now, you have to kind of scavenge for parts, restore fallen allies, makeshift weapons, and sort of take down an army of synthetic troops and these kind of weird creatures as well. And the game's got this kind of interesting dynamic to it. It's not procedurally generated, but the world does regularly shift around. So it opens up new areas, new loot, and new challenges as well. So that's kind of like an interesting element to it, that the game world is always changing. But the thing I'm most excited about this game is the fact that it's co-op. So, you know, like I mentioned with Downward Spiral, like we mentioned with Electronauts, playing these games co-op in VR is just so much fun. And if it's anything like Destiny or The Division, where you've got these real hardcore raids where you can team up with 4 of you and really go to town on some like big badass boss and then just get rewarded with some really epic loot for your hard work, then, you know, that's the thing that I'm really looking forward to the most. But I really hope that it aims for that, you know, and aims for the core audience instead of like being a watered down experience, a bit like what Marvel Powers United did. You know, they really catered to the casual, which I understand it. They want to get more people into VR. But for this game, because the core audience are so excited about it, I really hope they deliver and deliver an experience for them.
The thing with that title, what I have a bit like is the trailer looks absolutely gorgeous. It's exactly what I want. It's like a story. It feels like a story-driven kind of experience where you go and explore and do all this kind of crazy stuff. And I really think that VR needs something like that. I really have that Lone Echo feeling a bit with it. Only it's a different art style, a different kind of setting. And I really hope that they also continue with that kind of stuff. That it's not going to be just the trailer that looks really nice, but that there's also like a motivation to keep you in that game and something that you wanna explore and wanna continue with. Because that is, I think, what virtual reality at this moment really needs. Like something that like really draws you in and like makes you want to continue playing.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree because I feel like right now we're kind of in an era where there's a lot of throwaway titles. There's some that stand out above the rest, but a lot of it out there, or a lot of the newer titles that I see on both the Oculus Store and Steam VR are just like kind of like asset flips or just shovelware or short experiences that kind of just draw you in just because they're in virtual reality. They wouldn't be interesting on any other platform,
Like Forklift Simulator.
Well, if you love forklifts, you might dig it. But yeah, for sure. But yeah, I totally agree with you with what you're saying. But if you're interested in checking Stormland out, this is the first time they've ever publicly shown it. You don't actually have to be attending PAX to go to this event. It's completely separate from PAX, although in the same area. It's hosted by Oculus and is open to everyone. But if you're in the Seattle area, go check it out. It's open on the 31st of August between 11 a.m. and 9 p.m. and you get to play the game. So if you do get to play, we'll just
sorry.
I was just going to say
that. Oh, sorry. There's like a.
Go on.
No, you can. You're the host. Sorry.
So I was just going to say, if you do get a chance to go and check it out, please let us know because we'd love to know your thoughts on it because we're not going to be there. So
title is
Stormland.
Yeah. Okay. I was so confused there. But what I wanted to say is that I just hope that it gets some decent screen time, that we don't just get like you had with the Factor in a way at E3 where you have not even 10 minutes of playtime and you still don't know if it's like anything good. So it would get some more, like some more screen time. I was also surprised they didn't show it off or weren't planning to show it off on Gamescom. Because I mean PAX is fairly small. Gamescom is the biggest trading expo on the freaking planet, and then they go for PAX.
Americans are going to kill you, Nathan. You better run, boy.
And it's I'm just telling the facts, but
Americans
I was just
don't care about the numbers. They care about baseball bats.
But yeah, no, I totally agree. It would have been nice to go and check it out at Gamescom, of course, because we're going, of course, but we're not going to PAX, so
that's why I'm complaining pretty much.
Yeah, me too.
No, but it's true. Like you should.
It's actually funny because we just got a question in the chat from Dr. English saying, "Are any of you guys coming out for PAX West?" And no, we are not.
No,
unfortunately not. No, it's a shame. I wish we could. But not this year. Maybe next year. Maybe. Who knows? But yeah, I'd love to know if you're in the chat. Are you excited about Stormland? You're interested in this title, or you're not that bothered? Either way, I'd love to know your thoughts. So let's move on to some other quick news this week, and that is some surprising news. I thought it's kind of a bit strange, this news, but Viveport are adding Oculus support to Viveport, which is kind of weird. I didn't expect this one. Now, if you're not aware about Viveport or what it is, it's like they're trying to be like the Netflix of VR games. Like that's kind of a good way to describe it. You pay $8.99 a month. You get access to a library of games. You can choose 5 titles during that month to play. And then once that month is over, you can choose another 5 titles and then play those ones. But I don't know, like Oculus are adding their support to the platform from the 4th of September. Like I say, it's $8.99 a month if you want to pay monthly, or you can pay up front for like 3, 6, or 12 months, and you get 26% off if you do that. But it's like 80 quid you're throwing down for a year subscription. And the problem is, like, I thought, I'll look into this. Like, I never really looked into Viveport before. I'm not really that interested in it. But I looked into the titles, and although it's got a decent library, there is a lot of crap on there. And there is some good titles, like Pixel Ripped is on there, for example, Moss, Box VR, Arizona Sunshine. But you don't get others like Job Simulator or Rick and Morty or Super Hot. They're just missing for some bizarre reason. And the limitation of the service is that you can only play 5 of these games per month. So you really have to choose wisely.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Like I think that subscription services are interesting in the near future. You know, where maybe Steam does one, and then on Oculus does one, and you know, Vipart is something that still needs to grow because it's something that is just not ready to
No.
go just yet. So yeah, they added Oculus support. I don't see a reason to be on there at this moment. I also thought it was kind of broken and buggy. Like it destroyed my Steam a couple of times before. So I don't know. Like I feel like it can be something nice, but you need to know like Oculus started their platform straight from the Oculus Rift launch, right? Well, Vipart came way later than when the Vive launched. It didn't launch with Vipart. If they just did it straight from the start, then it would have been way better. But they kind of
their
need to catch
software
up.
is so weird still, no? Like it's
It is. It's mixing up with Steam, and then in Steam you have like you have like
Uh-oh.
Viveport, and like it's going all over the place. And let's say if you already use Oculus Home and you have Steam, and then you also have Viveport, like you don't even know where you own your games anymore because it's going all over the place.
Yeah,
Like,
I bought the blue on sale, and I got to the point where I couldn't even play it, and it was locked away. It's still locked away. I played it for like 5 minutes, and then it had some kind of fucking software glitch, and then I couldn't play anything. And then I had to uninstall the whole thing and try to reinstall it, try to restore my purchase. It was just not something I'm willing to waste my time on right now. But like what Nathan says about subscriptions, I'm surprised we haven't had something like the equivalent of what some creators get as a whitelist. So you like open platform access. So imagine, for instance, Oculus Home, open platform access with, let's say, 3 tiers. And the way it works is you buy into the subscription. And so as a minimum, you're going to be paying $5 a month if you play up to, I don't know, 100 hours. You go past that, your invoice or your bill you'll get at the end of the month is a bit higher. So maybe it'll go 5, 15, 30. And if 30 is like, you can play as much as you want. Like it's an all you can eat buffet. And I don't know why they haven't, packaged a model like that. People would jump at that, I think.
But even in the pancake gaming industry, they also don't really do that. Like EA was the first one to do it, like that EA Access or something, where you could play maybe 7 or 8 of their games or all of them. I'm not sure anymore. But I don't know. Maybe it's too early for subscriptions. It's kind of like Netflix, and Prime. Like you have one show on one, and then you have a show on the other. And as Mike said, if there is no job simulator on there or Super Hot or I mean, people those are the main games. You need to buy them. So if Vipart wants to put a price on the table and tells the developers, listen, or the publisher, this is what we want to pay for your title. We want to have it on the platform. Like if they show the effort to get every title on their platform and they are willing to pay for that, then it's worth the price. But right now they're kind of holding off. Like if you don't want to buy Superhot, that says enough about the dedication of your platform. Superhot is a must on every platform. You need to have that. It's a billboard for your platform in the end.
The kind of subscription service, I think it fits best in an environment like Oculus Go, right? 3,000 odd VR apps. The vast majority of them probably you don't want to necessarily put your money against, but you'd love to do a sampler. Like you'd love to just have free reign. And so I think something like the Go would be a great starting platform for them to test bed something like this.
Yeah, but I think as well, like for if they're limited to 5 apps per month, like say you choose Moss, for example, as one of your apps, like it's a great game. I totally recommend checking it out, but it's kind of 3 hours long. It's a great experience, but it's short. So then you kind of wasted one of your games. Then you only have 4 others to play with, and if you've got Seeking Dawn, for example, it's an expensive game to buy, so you could play it this way by renting it, but I still don't know. I don't think it's a great idea.
I think it would be interesting if they do a subscription feed based on hours. Yeah. So you just buy an amount of hours or something.
That'd be neat, if they had something like that.
Yeah, where you say like I buy like 60 hours of gameplay, and then I can just play whatever game I want, and then the countdown just starts running.
That would be interesting for sure, because then you could try out all the little shovelware games and just this is all crap, and then really invest the time into the bigger titles that you really want to play. That's probably a smarter way of doing it. But I think Viveport is a new platform. They're still trying to work it out, but it's kind of interesting what they're doing. But I don't think any of us would really recommend anyone go and check it out right now, right?
Well, the only thing that Viveport does really well is that the Vive Focus is making use out of Viveport as well. And that's a very big platform in Asia right now. It's kind of like the Oculus Go store right now. and that's pretty big. So Viveport in Asia is like the best thing ever for those people. So
yeah. But if you are interested in checking out Viveport, you can check it out for free. There is a 2-week trial available before you sign up, a bit like Netflix. You can sample it out, but just be wary of your settings because, like these guys have mentioned, apparently it messes some stuff up. So, yeah.
No discount codes like hashtag Mike free games or something.
If you use the discount code Gingerbeard, you'll get 4 weeks for free.
Nice.
Yeah, nailed it. Okay, so let's move on to a game that's releasing next week that might interest him if he's into his music games, because there's not really much releasing in terms of PC VR titles, unfortunately, but we do have one interesting PSVR title, and that is called Track Lab. This is coming out on the 21st of August, and in Track Lab, you can enter a virtual space and start to create music. A bit like Electronauts, you don't need any sort of musical knowledge or training. Anyone can create some beats from scratch by simply using the sort of building blocks around, and you can sort of mix and combine them on the fly to create full-blown tracks, which you can then share with the world, which is kind of interesting. But like Electronauts, it's kind of got this music light creation feel about it. So it's not like a DJ simulator where you really sort of like you really have to be a DJ to get them to work. It's kind of made for people that have no idea. Kind of makes you look cool, but in fact you're not, unfortunately. So it's kind of like if you've got no rhythm, then you're going to like this, along with Electronauts. Kind of fun one to mess around with if you like music and stuff, especially if you've got a sub pack or something like that. But yeah, unfortunately there isn't any co-op in this game either, but you can check it out. It's releasing on Tuesday the 21st and is $15.99 in British pounds, $19.99 in US dollars.
I'm definitely going to do that one. I'm going to do the We Happy Few as well, so it'll make me a nice night. Although I gotta figure out how the sub pack is gonna work for audio. Anyway, I'll do that.
Yeah, I know that PSVR Frank mentioned briefly that he had checked out Track Lab and was digging it. So, if you like that sort of thing, you like music creation, Electronauts and Track Lab are going to be your jam this summer by the looks of things.
Looks like a VR version of GarageBand, a little bit more so than I would say Electronauts is could be enjoyed by more people longer term than perhaps Track Lab in terms of how it appears. I was quite impressed at how accessible Electronauts was.
Yeah, like Servio's killing it right now with all their titles. Their level of polish, their UI, everything about it, like the servers, everything is just straight up working. It just works as you expect. And it's kind of it's something that we sometimes take for granted. And especially when me and Nathy played a lot of games last week, half of the titles that we played didn't have European servers, or their servers had been straight turned off, didn't work anymore, or the experience was bad, or we could meet up in game but couldn't communicate, no voice chat, and it was a mess. But Servio seems to really sort of hit it consistently with that level of quality,
it's a really big company as well. This is was a very small business, and now they're huge. I visited their office. They had a party with Electronauts. My God, that development studio is huge. They can poop out 2-3 VR games every 6 months, and they are all.
But the good thing is that's
what we need.
We
need more companies like that.
It's just
exactly
good
in a short amount of time as well. They deliver more and more and more, and they grow and grow and grow.
Yeah, they're probably at the moment the most experienced VR developer out there. If you look at the titles that they bring out in different genres.
And that's exactly what I was going to say, is that every single game they've brought out so far has been a different genre. You've got a shooter in raw data. You've got Sprint Vector, which is a genre in itself. Yeah, like a sports VR title. Electronauts, a virtual music mixing game.
But Creed coming out, boxing game.
Yes.
Yeah. Boxing, coming soon. So Servios, definitely if you're looking at quality
and
VR
don't
titles.
forget Jumanji, because they also helped building that one, right? They had a connection with Jumanji in a way.
Let's not forget about that one.
No, that's also a genre within a genre.
I don't think they made that game.
Genre. Yeah.
They helped publish it in VR arcades. That's what they did with that title.
I still feel though the Servios, I think they're doing the right thing. I think a lot of development teams are doing it, but less overtly, and probably more so in the R&D labs. But I kind of feel like they're searching for the vein. You know, like I feel like they're kind of tapping around, going like, "Where's the gold? Where's the gold?"
And what I would like to see is that they make a game that is really about a story as well. Like most of the games they made so far are kind of arcadey, raw data had. Well, no, it wasn't really a story. It was like fun dialogue. But let's say if they go for a more story-based title, that well, maybe that's too big for them right now. Maybe they just go for because the genres they pick are always the ones that are not really getting done right now in the industry. So
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing with them as well. Like they make so many different kind of titles that it's hard to like say like this studio is doing, this particular kind of thing. It's just like VR is like the overbranching more kind of setting, I think now.
I think you hit the nail on the head in that the games are arcadey because Servios actually run a series of VR arcades. So they kind of make the games for the other product which they do is, make VR arcades. So it kind of makes sense in a way. They're one's feeding the other. But yeah, they're a great studio.
I was going to say there's a fun question there. Predict Servios' next IP.
Wow.
In what genre you mean? Like what kind of genre?
We'll come back with the answers at the end of the show because I can hear the gears like making sound.
So are these arcades only in the US?
Yeah, I think so for now. Yeah, I certainly
Because I
haven't
have
heard
never
them.
seen one before.
No. But if you go on their website, they're very specific about their goal in setting up, Servios branded VR arcades around the country. So you never know. Maybe they'll creep overseas, and we'll get some over here as well. Maybe.
Servios card.
yeah. But we'll be talking more about VR arcades later on in one of our topics this week. But let's move on and talk about PlayStation VR because this is really cool. And this is when, especially when we've had a bit of a lull in terms of games and stuff like that, you see these kind of figures, these numbers, and you're like, yeah, this is what it's all about. You keep on seeing all these people like big tech review channels and everyone else saying VR is dead. And you're like, screw you. You don't know what you're talking about. So this week, Sony tweeted out that they've surpassed 3 million PSVR headsets sold. So that is like an incredible number in terms of like a small niche industry that we're in right now. Like we're growing every single day. And alongside the 3 million PSVR headsets, they sold 21.9 million PSVR games and experiences. Like that is awesome.
It's
That is
mind-boggling.
9 million. Yeah, that's.
And to put it into perspective, like these numbers are very rough guesstimates based on my calculations, but it seems like Rift and Vive combined probably make up maybe just 1 to 1.5 million headsets. So they're almost doubling Rift and Vive combined, and that's based on like sales figures from last year that I've kind of calculated.
That kind of makes sense as well. I mean, you need to buy like one of the heaviest PCs that you can buy at the moment. The investment in terms of prices is way higher compared to like just buying the PSVR if you already have a PlayStation around. Because how many people have PlayStations? It's not that big of an investment, but a huge return of investment compared to buying an HD Vive or an Oculus Rift, because all of the best titles mostly come out on the PSVR as well. So,
and they've got some great exclusive titles as well. Resident Evil. Have to mention that game again.
Mentioning it, Mike.
Like I'm hoping like if I mention it every single show that one day Capcom might watch it and just port it to PC, please. No, I haven't played it yet, but I did see it on sale the other day for like 12 quid, I think, in game. I should have just bought it.
Yeah. Such a good.
Also, don't forget about the marketing, because PlayStation, like they know how to market this. Like the way they have been showing it off in the stores was great. You could try it. Everyone could try it in a store without having anyone like sitting next to you helping you out with the headset. I've seen many places where I could just put on the headset and I was playing and there was no one around me helping me with that. It just worked. Like it was so easy. I put it on and oh, I'm playing VR. Bam, done. Well, there were like with the Vive and the Rift, it was kind of rare. Sometimes there was a place where you could try it. Sometimes there wasn't. Then it started to disappear again. And PlayStation, they put it on billboards, they put it on television, they constantly also smash it on Facebook, because you get like nonstop advertisement for all the games they publish. I don't see Vive doing that. I also don't see Oculus doing that. let's take an example. Marvel Powers United. They put a trailer online of the game. They upload it to their channel, and that's it. And then a week later, they upload some videos of, hey, this is how you control Hulk, and this is how you control
I've been
Deadpool.
getting
Well,
some Marvel Powers United commercials though. I've been seeing them, but like a week or 2 weeks after that the game is released, which is a bit.
yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about. Like PlayStation is on point. They market at the right moment. They just know what they are doing, and especially they demo it to everyone. At Gamescom next week, you will see the same thing. They want to get everyone into VR to try it, and they just go for the really like the feel, the actual like experience
Yeah.
where people can just try it for free first, and then they can buy it.
You make a really good point there, Nathan, that I wonder if, because I know I have loads of friends who would probably say this, like, is there a social pressure with trying out VR? That's there, that is actually like a pressure bubble that pushes you away from it. Because I know some people would be like, just let me alone. Let me just try it out. Let me close the door and be on my own in a room so I can feel safe and no one's going to poke me or whatever. I mean, that's already important if you're demoing. But even just like the walk up to somebody and have them explain it to you and all that bullshit, like, I wonder if there's people who actually haven't tried VR for that reason.
Yeah,
social anxiety. Because
I think they didn't try it because they usually don't get the opportunity to try it in a store or anywhere else. Like there are enough stores where you just walk in and you can't try it. And I've seen enough booths with the PlayStation VR where you could just put it on. There was no one there. You could play like racing simulators and stuff like that. Mostly seated, not standing ones, but I mean, that's what you need, You just need
That's again the same thing, eh? Like you don't need a PC, you don't need to have all that configuration. It's just a PlayStation. You pop in a CD and you can play the game, or you download all the games on there. It's so straightforward, and that's the power of the console that you get there. With a PC, you always have issues. There's an entire interface you need to start. You need to make sure that your rooms are being tracked properly and all of that. You don't have that way, and of course it's less quality. And like the VR on PlayStation, it's not the same as the VR that you play with HTC Vive. It's not the same as with the Oculus Rift, but it's still virtual reality. I hear sometimes people saying, "Oh, but it's not real VR." It's definitely real VR. I mean, it completely is, but it's not of the same quality as the other one. And then I'm not talking about resolution, all of that, but in terms of interaction.
Also, a strong point is that like everyone bought a PlayStation in their lives, right? I mean, let's be honest here. When you go to a store, there's a PlayStation box there, and the PlayStation VR is right next to it. Well, I rarely see a Rift or a Vive in a store. I like in Europe at least, I don't see them that much. Maybe in America, there's a lot more going on. But here in Europe, usually I see the PlayStation there, and I see the PlayStation VR right next to the PlayStation.
Yeah, Mike, have you ever seen in the UK a playable Vive or Rift in a store?
So I haven't personally, but my mum, obviously, and my mum knows that I'm well into VR, and she went to Harrods, which is obviously one of the biggest retail stores in London, and they actually had a demo station there, and she was like, can we try it out? And they said no, because the attendee that normally looks after it wasn't available that day, so they couldn't play it. So it was just behind a glass cabinet.
Well, Harrods being like the priciest shops, right? Like in London. So you're telling me that your mom beat Resident Evil 7 and you haven't even touched it yet?
Yeah, exactly. I will buy that game. Like, it was just that I bought some other titles at the time instead. But yeah,
Are those temporary tattoos, Mike? Are those temporary tattoos that you put on?
I'm not scared. I'm not scared. I'll put it that way. I'm not scared. I have completed the game, the Pancake game. But I do actually have my PSVR set up now in my bed, so I can now have access to it easier. I've been playing some static, like I mentioned last week. I am actually really looking forward to playing Firewall 0 Hour with the aim controller, because it looks just like Rainbow Six Siege in VR. Like that game looks.
He's changing the subject. He's changing the subject.
We had a bit of input on the chat as well, though. Like there were people saying that I think Zimtalk hit the nail on the head. I have a lot of friends who haven't tried it because they are afraid of looking weird. It was Dr. English who said that. So yeah, I mean, and people have been saying like that the headset might be too tight for some people because they have bigger heads. I don't.
There's a big tip with that. There's a really, really big tip with that, because the PlayStation VR, for those, I don't have my room any to show it to you, but it has a dial in the back, somewhat similar to the original Vive, that tightens it to your head. And I find it's actually quite aggressive. I don't use that at all because I had the same problem. You actually get like headaches straight away if you use it because it clicks in and it can really give you pressure on your head. But otherwise, like the front forehead pad and the back are quite nice. But I do find that has been a problem for people who I've demoed it to as well.
Yeah.
Maybe he's putting it on right now.
I have to say, out of all the headsets, it's one of the ones with like the most clarity and reduced screen door effect of all the headsets.
Definitely.
Definitely. It's very nice to use.
If you get into the sweet spot, then it's really like a really clear display. Like you can barely see any screen door effect. So in terms of quality, it's really nice.
The only one thing that I haven't tried is that I don't have any Move controllers. So all the games that I've played so far have either been controller based or PS aim.
I'm not a big fan of the Move controls. I know people like say that they like them, but I'm so used to like using thumbsticks and using the Vive controller, the Rift controller, that it's really difficult for me to snap back to that. It really is.
I was so sold against them at the beginning. I literally said to my community, I said, I am not buying the Move controllers. They're 6 years old. They're old tech. I will wait for Sony to reinvent this. And actually, there were some patents flying around at the time that seemed like they were going to come out with a new pair. I crumbled bottom. I tell you though, with Skyrim, that movement system on PSVR is really nice. And so actually, for me, the Move controllers are better than the Vive controllers. I really do not like them.
But the thing is,
it was the opposite. Like it took me like 30 minutes for me to like figure out how the controls worked in Skyrim. Like, and it was at the time that I was like finishing it off that I was like, oh, like now I know how it works. Like, well, I don't like that kind of that motion kind of controller scheme.
But in the end,
go on.
In the end, like how many people own like a Rift and a PlayStation VR or a Vive and a PlayStation VR? If you are only on the PlayStation platform, like you're fine with these controllers. Most people will not have a PC and a PlayStation. That's something we do and some enthusiasts have. Most people of these 3 million sales, they just own a PlayStation. That's it. They never tried a Rift before. They never tried a Vive. They're just fine with that. But I agree. Like these moves can be better, and I'm sure PlayStation is working on the 2.0 version, and it's gonna be like maybe even cheaper than the first one. That would be amazing.
Yeah, but it's still a reformat. It's not the controller they had in mind for virtual reality. It's like a reformat that they used.
Yeah,
but I do find. Do any of you have the same controller gripes that I do with PSVR? Because it's a little bit like the Wii territory, in that there's a lot of different peripherals you can buy for it. It feels like it just keeps adding. You got the aim controller, you got the Move controllers, you got the different cameras. There's actually a different version of the headset. So there's an older version and a newer version.
Oh, really?
There's an older version of the camera and a newer version. And there's an older version of the Move controllers.
Yes.
Which has the mini instead of micro USB chargers, which if all your other peripherals, battery packs, phones, and all that charge off of micro USB, it's annoying to have to charge. So just watch out for that. Don't buy the older ones. Thanks, Amazon.
but the thing is, like, with this 3 million headsets sold number, as soon as Beat Saber comes out on PSVR, I think that's just going to go even crazier. That game is going to sell headsets for sure. I'm convinced of it. So to celebrate this new milestone, PlayStation are actually hosting a VR sale until the 28th of August. So if you've got a PSVR and you're excited about it, you can go and check out some games for sale right now. But also, let's talk about like the top played PSVR games. So these are sort of from number 10 going to number 1. So these are the most played PSVR titles of all time. So starting at number 10 is Super Hot in VR, one of my favorite games. Next up at number 9 is Farpoint. So that's an interesting one. Number 8, Batman Arkham VR was exclusive to PlayStation for a while, then came to PC VR.
Are these based on sales or ratings?
Just top played.
So hours sunk in.
I guess so, yeah.
What was number 8? Sorry, I missed that.
Batman's
good, actually.
It's good. Good. Yeah. Number 7, one that I actually really want to check out myself, is Until Dawn: Rush of Blood. But I think it needs the Move controllers, I think.
You can use a gamepad.
Ooh,
Yeah.
But
okay.
I would recommend playing it with the Move controllers.
Okay, interesting. Thanks for the tip. Number 6 is Job Simulator, classic. Number 5, not heard of this one before, The Playroom VR.
It's
The
you
demo.
actually get it. Yeah, it's software that it's kind of like how you got Wii Sports. It usually comes with
Right.
Yeah.
It's not great, to be honest.
Okay.
It's just a bunch of like small things you
But it's
could
probably
play
what
with
a
your
lot of
wife
people
on.
indeed spent their first amount of hours in, just testing it out and going into VR and trying that. That must be the explanation why it's in there, because it's not one of those titles that is like, oh yeah, I remember, I remember
think it was
starting
on
it
the
up
list.
and then shutting it down afterwards.
Yeah.
One
Okay.
thing in the middle of this countdown list, Mike, if you haven't downloaded for free and you own a PSVR, download the demo, the initial demo of either the EU one or the NA one, and the demo disc 2. They have 2, and you can just get a whole slice of about 12 different games in a download, and you get a nice sampler.
Cool. So up at number 4 is Resident Evil, of course. Number 3 is Rec Room. Number 2 is PlayStation VR Worlds. And do you guys want to have a stab at number 1? Have a guess?
Number 1.
Most
Super
played
Hot?
game?
We haven't heard Super Hot yet.
Oh, that was number 10. That was number 10.
Is it,
okay,
is it
okay.
Eve? Is it Eve Valkyrie?
No.
Cool.
So it is
Skyrim?
it is Skyrim. Yeah, it is
Really?
Skyrim. Yeah.
Because of hours, right? Because of
yeah,
hours.
I guess so. Because
I
of
put more hours into Skyrim than almost the summation of all the rest of the things on the console.
yeah. So there you go.
I just thought that would be like a game, because I thought like so many people already played it. They just wanted to experience it in VR, but like really like play the game from beginning to end or like even longer. That's surprising in a way.
In a way, I do kind of envy people that have the amount of spare time to just say, "Yeah, I'm going to play Elder Scrolls Skyrim for like 100 hours."
40 hours.
I envy those people, because like literally we skip from game to game and we very rarely get to complete one. You really have to love a game to dedicate some time to complete it.
We
Plus,
have
a game
JD
library
Max
community.
saying, I have 160 hours in Skyrim VR.
Dude, what a legend.
160.
I'd love to
No,
just
I
sit
know
down
people
with
who
him
played it
in the
for
pub
months.
with a beer and just tell me some stories of what kind of crazy shit you got up to in that game. I'd love to know.
I
I'd love to know.
totally get why Skyrim is a number 1, because I mean the way this game works is that the progress is really slow, but it's very satisfying to unlock stuff, to get new things, to upgrade your character. So before like when you spend 40 hours in this game, it doesn't even feel like you even got started yet.
Oh,
So-
we have a winner, I think, with Watuk, who is saying that he has more than 300 hours in Skyrim VR, but it is very heavily modded.
Wow.
More than
Wow.
300.
He's got the naked mod on. That's what he's been spending all his hours in there for.
Naked mod, yeah.
That is a quality mod. That is a quality mod.
I'm sure it is.
And the tank engine.
Look straight in the
enemies
camera
are
and say that
tank
again,
engine,
please.
That is a quality mod. The naked mod for Skyrim is. I actually haven't tried it myself. I've just seen the screenshots, but it's well done.
many screenshots.
No, Mike, I don't have that many folders.
So do you think now that like PlayStation are like really killing it in terms of VR, that Microsoft may pay attention and actually do something next year? Do you think?
No.
I don't think the
It's
technology is
Microsoft.
at the point to do it. I think that is the big issue.
I think they
need
have
to
a
get
different.
not only the headset in the people's hands, but also like all those peripherals. And I don't
Yeah.
think that they're there. Because what PlayStation did was recuperate a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, but I also, like as I said before, like I also think that PlayStation has a different idea of what VR should be at this moment, and they want to go a little lower than what Microsoft wants to do. I think they just wait for their next console, and then they will just straight from the bat launch and see if that works. I think that how PlayStation VR works at this moment, that's not what Microsoft wants.
Yeah.
Because Microsoft has been working with Oculus before in the past, and they have seen how VR should be and what standard they need to reach to make it like good and decent and interesting for people to stick along for a little longer. So
Yeah. When Battlefield and GTA and all that are VR enabled, Microsoft will be on that boat ready to sail.
Interesting.
And Nintendo will still be playing around and teasing us with with dropouts.
Nintendo are killing it in their own way. I think the Switch has
they are.
become the indie darling console of our time. It's amazing. I can't
Plus,
recommend it.
Microsoft is already competing within the VR industry because they have the whole mixed reality platform, right? So
Yeah, of course.
Talking about AAA giants, I'd have to mention it because you mentioned the Switch. Diablo 3 has just come to Switch. So for any Diablo fans out
welcome to the Switch podcast, everyone.
So back on to VR then. Let's steer the ship around. So we're going to be talking about the StarVR One up next. So last week we mentioned that StarVR had teased an image of an upcoming headset that was going to be announced at SIGGRAPH. Now that event was last week, and now we know all about the specs. So let's sort of dive into what it's all about. On their actual website, they've got a sort of statement that says "Made for Visionaries." So I think these visionaries are going to need very deep pockets, I think, because this thing is going to be freaking expensive. But let's get into the specs. So it's got 210-degree horizontal field of view, 130-degree vertical field of view. So this field of view is like freaking huge, like bigger than the Pimax 8K. It's got an AMOLED display with Fresnel lenses. So as we know with AMOLED displays, they're going to be more dark colors, more vibrant sort of color spectrum. AMOLED displays are really great displays, as we know with like Samsung with their Samsung Odyssey. It's got integrated Tobii eye tracking. Auto IPD measurement and distortion, which is really important for this headset, I think, and I'll talk more about why that is important in a bit. It's got dynamic foveated rendering, so it means that it uses the eye tracking to work out which part of the display you're looking at any given time and make sure that point is rendered at the highest possible fidelity, and then everything else in your peripheral vision is kind of a little bit reduced quality to save on performance.
But is it really like pinpointing it, or is it like a square that is moving around? Because that's a big difference still, huh? Like if you, for example, have like only like the few pixels that you look at, actually, can it really detect that, or is it like the rough area where that your eye is watching and it just takes that entire square and then it moves that square up and down? That's also a form of dynamic foveated rendering.
Yeah, so they didn't go into specifics as to how they actually achieve this, but the reason why they probably do this is to save on performance headroom, because then it means that you don't have to render the whole display at the highest possible fidelity. You can kind of just choose that small little window that the user is actually looking at to render it.
That is why they, of course, have a minimum of 1080 Ti that you can use with this headset, since it's so much reduced in graphical intensity.
Exactly, and you're not far wrong. Like the actual minimum specs is a GTX 1080. You're going to need an i7 7700 minimum, or an AMD Ryzen 7 2700X minimum specs. So this thing is like an absolute beast. Yeah. It has two USB-C outputs, which go to a breakout box, and I think it actually needs 2 display ports to run this headset as well. So,
oh shit!
Yeah,
a true pleasure for the eyes, that's for sure.
Yeah,
wow.
But let's make this clear. Like a lot of people have been talking about hype around this headset, like, oh, this is the future of VR and everything else. This is not a consumer headset. It is going to be for high-end enterprise applications and location-based entertainment. So you can expect to see these in VR arcades or like real high-end businesses.
Like the first one.
Like the first one, exactly. It's not going to be a consumer headset. And I know a lot of people say out there, well, like the Vive Pro was like an enterprise headset, a business headset. A lot of consumers bought it, enthusiasts bought it. That is true. But I think this thing is probably going to cost twice as much as the Vive Pro. Like, we don't have an official price yet, but that is going to be my guess.
Wow. But also they also, I think, make some games for this one as well, right? For the arcades, because usually the games that run on the StarVR are the ones that are made by the studio who also made the headset.
Yeah, so I think they made John Wick, right? John Wick was one of the ones that they made. And I think they also bought the license for The Walking Dead, I believe. A Walking Dead VR experience.
People are still going to buy it. Doesn't matter what the cost is. People are still going to buy it.
But this is the thing, like, it's not on their website. A bit like Vive, like anyone could just go and buy a Vive Pro from the Vive website. But I don't think you can with StarVR. I think you have to sign up as an enterprise or a business account.
But like, can you just imagine? I mean, if I was an indie VR dev right now, and you're there, going, is it going to be soup or beans this week? and then this thing lands and you're like, I have to remortgage my cardboard box.
It's gonna be nothing this week.
It's gonna be nothing. I better start saving up. Like, I mean, that for me, when I hear this, it's not the consumers that I worry about, because consumers can shove their hand under the couch and find the extra change or starve themselves for a couple of weeks. We've all been students, right? But aside from that, even if you got a gargantuan priced headset that takes a gargantuan PC, like, I feel for the devs the most. To be honest.
Is this really going to be even for the developers? Like, is this not going to be like the kind of headset that's going to be
like they make their own
like
games?
The Void? Like, I think that would be nice if they would have like a collaboration with the Void. You get like the entire like setup, the backpack, the suit on, and you get like this 10K headset on your face that like is 10 times better than anything else in there. That would be awesome. Like, then they can really like get into that arcade kind of feel. But for developers, who's going to develop for?
But they don't like they make their own. As far as I know, they make their own games. So you have an arcade, and if you want to, as StarVR, you can put your headset there, or they buy your headset with the game, and then you build that booth for them inside their arcade for them. That's what you do. It's like an old school arcade where you could play, let's say, a Nintendo cabinet, but you could also play one from Namco. Like, there were so many different ones, because you could just buy the games, and this is the same thing. So it's not getting developed by anyone else then.
But this is the interesting thing about StarVR, is that it's actually a collaboration between Starbreeze Studios and Acer. Like, that's the collaboration. Like, Starbreeze, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they made the old Riddick games. The Chronicles of Riddick. I believe they made those games. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I didn't know that.
I might be wrong about that, but I've got a faint feeling that
were they quite good, or did I?
Oh yeah, they were pretty decent games actually, for sure. But the other thing is that the actual StarVR is going to be compatible with Steam VR 2.0. So if you've got like 2.0 Vive base stations, or then it's going to technically work with that. But like I said before,
it makes sense, because most arcades nowadays make use of that license with Steam, where they just license more games. So I think it's good to have a universal thing within an arcade now, where you just have Steam, and that's all you need as an arcade to run all the games on every headset out there.
Yeah. So the thing I wanted to go back to was the auto IPD measurement and why it's important. And, I think this is kind of why it's definitely aimed at business users and arcades, because you've got a lot of different users using the headset all the time. Like, it's not just set up for one single person. And this is kind of interesting that the headset itself has this auto IPD measurement and adjustment that it does automatically for you. So the user doesn't even have to think about it. And I wanted to ask you guys this question as well, because every demo that I've ever done in VR outside of my house, whether it be at an event or at a VR arcade, no one has ever suggested that I adjust the IPD to my comfort. No one ever has done that. And I've played a lot of crap outside of my house.
Right. No, you're right. That's and you will also, like, next week at Gamescom, where they show off all kinds of VR games. It's the same. It's the same. Like, they don't turn it around. And I don't know if that's like an instruction problem, because usually the people that show it off are in like interns, right? There are people that are on an internship, or people that are like volunteers as well. Like, for example, Oculus, when they do a pop-up or something else, they are usually volunteers. So they don't even it's the first time they see a headset in the first place.
That's true, actually. That is true.
But you're right. That's a must, because like you don't see
it's time
to do that. It takes too much time.
It's true.
And it's something that
they're first going to need to explain what it is. You have your, why you need to change that. People, of course, don't know their IPD. They need to like start going up the entire time. No, that's not better. Oh, let's go down. I think this is better. It's going to be too long for a demo to do it.
But for me, unless my IPD is set correctly, I don't have a good experience. And I think that's the problem for an end user that doesn't know, is that they might have a really bad experience. It might even make them sick.
Yeah, but
and for me, it's even worse, because the IPD range is not in the range that is on the Oculus Rift.
Will it really kill your experience? I'm not sure about that. I think if you're really immersed and everything goes so fast, I don't think people really...
For me, it doesn't kill my experience at all, but it does make me quit VR sooner.
Yeah, but if you are new to VR, like, are you really going to bother the first time?
If it's like, if you're like 20 or 30 off and it's like blurry, then I can imagine that it's not gonna be a nice experience at all.
I wonder, like,
10, I still think it'd be okay.
I wonder if they have a standard of where they put it on. do they maybe they put it like somewhere in the middle of it, or do they don't do
Maybe.
anything with that?
They already have it in the range that they use for the IPD is already what about I think 85% of the population actually has. So it's only like that
Yeah, of
50% that falls out on both ends. But then they put it probably somewhere in the middle so that the majority of the people that actually comes and try it is still having a decent experience.
But like when I was at Oculus Connect last year, when I was at the VR arcade just recently, I literally do it instinctively. Like as soon as I put a headset on, I adjust it because mine's the lowest it can possibly go. So I
But
just
you
know
know-
to adjust it. Yeah,
But
I
you know,
yeah.
Oh,
like a
interesting.
lot of people that do that have never tried an Oculus Rift or an HTC Vive.
So Mike, everyone who follows you then is like, why is this so fucking blurry?
Yeah,
Jesus.
I messed it up for them. I had a great time. I messed it up for you though.
Do you set it back?
No.
Yeah, thought so.
I'm that guy.
Be kind, rewind, Mike.
I'm
The
that
guilty
guy.
pleasure, the guilty pleasure on your
This
face.
is why I think it's so great that StarVR have done this, because you can just put on the headset, it'll automatically adjust, and you'll get the best experience every time. So
It's
cool.
funny that in the chat everyone is sharing their IPD right now. So, for example, David has an IPD of like 66. We have GD Max that has like 67, or he's saying that that's the standard. 67 on my big ass hat says Matauk, and 69 IPD for Roy. So I mean, yeah,
I
what do you
am
know?
well below 60. I am well below 60. So I'm not. My range is not even in the Oculus or and the HTC Vive is even worse because the IPD is even. I think it only goes up until what is it 59 or 60 on the Vive? You know, maybe Mike.
I think it's higher, so it might be sort of 60-ish.
But we have the Pro. The Pro is indeed even higher. Like the original Vive was
The
a
range.
little bit on the lower side.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I can't even.
I got to mention again, though, as a caveat to people who don't know this and might have been thinking, maybe I'll get an Oculus Go. It's got a fixed IPD. So
But
there's
that's
no way to adjust it.
But I think in my eyes, like that's the great thing about the headset, because the sweet spot is so huge.
Yeah.
But again,
have less-
it does accommodate only a certain range, like the most popular range. Like if you're some sort of like guy like Chuck from the Goonies or something like that, you got a really big head, then
Or
you
like,
you might struggle a little bit.
Like in the chat, we have Mike Philippidis. He says, "I have 0 as I am a pirate." Ark.
Okay, so yeah, that is the StarVR, very interesting headset, but I don't think anyone's going to be buying anyone soon. You can just check it out in the arcades. I think that's where you're.
Just make one point. It made me think when I was looking at the headset, looking at the kind of clarity of the lenses, the usual kind of reel that they show. Is there a point of inflection coming that for horror titles is going to switch between like comfortable, this is fun, to I'm panicking, please help.
It's already doing that now,
like
for me.
I know some people are in that category already, but for me, like my body can differentiate between I've got a headset on and I don't. But there must be that kind of holodeck flip switch coming soon.
Yeah, at some point it's going to switch, and it's going to be very difficult to convince your brain that it's not real, I think.
But
yeah.
would you still play horror games then? Would you still?
That's what I'm saying. Like, think about it. Like, think if someone literally was going to walk into your room with a knife and then stab it into your chest. Like, could you stomach that?
I've seen worse. No, of course.
I mean, it would
be difficult.
It would be neat if you do that together with like people. Like it's like an escape room experience, like what you guys did. Like
not marriage counseling, right?
Joint therapy,
co-op, right?
Yeah, but not for like when you play it together with multiple people as like like a group event. I think that would be more fun. One is the killer. One is the killer.
I think I'm gonna call my escape room hospital terror escape simulator.
Yeah, you won't see Nathan in there, that's for sure.
And Zim is gonna have one too. It's called the England Dread Halls escape room.
Yeah, you have to wear a mouth guard as required. Okay, so let's move on to our final topic this week, and that is Gamescom 2018. So it's going to be kicking off in Cologne next week, and this is kind of where the event of the year where developers, media, gamers alike, they all get together, share and celebrate gaming. So Nathan and I are going to be at the event next week, so hopefully we can try out some really cool stuff and maybe share it with you on next week's episode of the show. We know for sure that Oculus are going to be there, HTC, Samsung, Valve, like we mentioned in a previous episode, but it's probably just the business version of Valve, so don't get too triggered.
No.
There's also going to be some VR developers that we know and love, like CoatSync and Vertigo Games. But like we said at the beginning, we know already that the Oculus aren't going to be showing Stormland at Gamescom. It's just going to be at PAX, unfortunately. So let's talk about our predictions about what is going to be shown and maybe what's going to be announced at Gamescom. If you've got any predictions in the chat as well, please chuck them in because we can discuss those as well. But what do you guys think? Let me trigger you all by saying like Half-Life 3 or Left 4 Dead in VR or something like that. What do you guys think? Do you think there's going to be any big announcements next week?
No.
Yeah, no, I'm going to say that you're going to come home like so disappointed that there wasn't more VR there.
I mean, no new.
I'm just setting my bar really low.
I still think there's going to be a lot of VR there, but I don't think there's going to be like new titles where you like, oh, like Bethesda is making like a new VR game. No.
Okay.
I think most of the announcements that were big have been made at E3.
Yeah.
You know, Squanch Games, Bethesda with Wolfenstein and Prey.
Yep.
And then you had PlayStation VR with some titles, and wasn't so big or special. So I think most of the games, like that's Gamescom, you know, it's a trade event, so people can play a lot there. So it's mainly about, you know, people need to play. But yeah, based on my research, there isn't that much VR. Last year there was more, I think, but I like sometimes like some. That's the thing, since VR is such a niche market and it's so new, the marketing side of things are also not very sharp. So there can be a very big company that we don't know about that is just there, but they just don't know how to tell people that they are there. Usually people don't know because there are companies like, for example, Tesla suit has like a really cool haptic suit, but they never post something on Twitter. So usually you don't really know where they are. Well, there are others like Vertigo Games. They made an announcement. They put a trailer up. They tell everyone we're at Gamescom, and they tell it them every day. You know, they do countdowns, stuff like that. But you also have companies that are just like, maybe they told everyone like 6 months ago, like, hey, we're going to be at Gamescom. And then you're like, I mean, Mike, you know how important it is. Like, we have been constantly telling everyone on Twitter, we're at Gamescom. And every day I say that I'm at Gamescom, I get more emails from developers saying like, hey, I'm going to be there too. But if I just posted it once.
Exactly. Yeah,
exactly. But in terms of like predictions, I don't have many predictions. I think that maybe, I'm not sure if this is a fact already, but NVIDIA is finally going to put the GPU up for pre-orders, right?
Yeah.
Or is that just a rumor? Is that a fact or a rumor?
I read that as well, yeah. I think,
we're going to touch on that in a little bit. So we'll talk more about that in a second. But in terms of predictions, I think you guys are right in that I think it's going to be a bit of a sad one. Not a sad one, but I don't think there's going to be any big announcements, especially for PC VR. Maybe PlayStation might announce something. I know that
Gamescom usually not really done that they announce really big titles there.
Well, for VR companies, it's usually not E3 or Gamescom to announce anything. No, it's VR LA, it's the Game Awards, it's like maybe Oculus Connect, because that's where the VR community is like pointed towards. So usually it's not really Gamescom or E3.
So as our predictions sort of suggest that there's not really going to be a big announcement for any big games.
That's the prediction, basically.
That is a prediction. What would be your one, like just one each, the one that you would love to see as a big surprise announcement, big reveal, this is the one. And I'll give you my one first. So last week we talked about Doom Eternal, and we talked about that game. We thought it was really cool, but they didn't announce any VR support. However, after the event, because they didn't mention Switch either, after the event, they mentioned that there will be a Switch version of the game coming, and it will be relaunching on the same day as all the other platforms. So I was like, hang on a minute. So the Switch are getting a version of the game. Maybe VR could get a version of the game. So that's the one I would say. I think it's unlikely.
I'm hearing that as well. Yeah.
I think it's unlikely, but I would love it.
Probably a VR version coming.
Yeah.
Well, there's one more rumor that I want to kind of like fire up, is that when you go to the Gamescom website, you can look for keywords like VR, AR, virtual reality, etc. And when you search for VR, Microsoft pops up. I don't know what that means. Could be just Microsoft, their booth with their new computers, because they usually have a computer booth and they maybe show some VR.
Maybe it's like Microsoft is still not getting into VR.
Maybe.
I'd say they would have paid for some kind of promotion on wherever you searched for their Windows MR stuff, and they'll have a stand there with like 3 dudes showing off Windows MR headsets.
Yeah, but a bit like Nathy, like I searched all the VR companies that are going to be showcasing at Gamescom, and there are some very interesting stuff, mainly sort of in terms of accessories and hardware. Like there's haptic vests, cyber shoes, treadmills, VR accessories, guns, all sorts of crazy stuff. Like Vertigo Games have got like a warehouse sized Arizona Sunshine experience. So I'm looking forward to checking all that stuff out, and hopefully we'll have some cool news to share with you after that.
I'm gonna say, for my guess on this, Mike, I'm gonna say because I'm such a fan of Tactile, and because it works with so many different titles, and because I'm sick of waiting for gloves to come out, I'd like someone to do some equivalency to the sub pack that are gloves that you wear. So when you're firing a gun, whatever, you feel the pulse in your hand, but it's not something that requires special development. It's just going off of, again, bassy sounds.
Universal.
I'd love to see something like that. No one I've seen yet has like a chargeable pair of gloves that you can buy that does that.
There is usually a lot of haptic stuff at Gamescom that they show, like gloves, suits, treadmills as well. Lots of treadmills. It's all there. I expected you to say Max Payne, to be honest, but maybe that's like.
I think Max Payne's dead. I'm afraid. I wish Remedy would.
I'm going to cosplay as Max Payne. Okay, so you got any other sort of wish lists that you'd like to see before I move on to some graphics card news?
Rowdy?
No.
I would say BioShock VR.
Okay, you can have that one.
Half-Life
for sure.
VR.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give up.
I'm going to say GTA 6 VR.
Okay.
So
Nice.
Spammels says that he would love to see a Outlast VR game.
Ooh,
I
Outlast.
think Michael would like that too. Oh, Duke Nukem VR. Oh, not
Duke
bad.
Nukem,
Like that's a while ago. Like the last game was so bad. Like
Duke Nukem Forever VR.
True. Oh, someone else also says BioShock. Hey, we're on the same page there.
Nice.
But we'll see. Like hopefully a AAA game that gets like or a VR experience, or in Doom's case, an actual like full-fledged thing that kind of catches up with the launch. But who knows?
Yeah. Anything with a wheel. I would take Spin Tracks or any other game. Like Spin Tracks, or Spin Tires was this game where you were driving around these like massive Russian trucks through like mud, and they had like 9 wheels or something like that. Like they were massive. I'd never seen a game like it before, but it only came to 2D, and I was like, I really wanted it to be a VR-ified game. Something like Euro Truck Sim, but we haven't had anything for quite a while now.
Ice Road Trucker in VR.
I do it.
Yeah.
Factory Life says that he just wants anything with dinosaurs.
Oh, of course.
Of course, it's given. I can follow him.
Yeah. You've got our hearts and minds.
Or a new Megalodon Rainfall game.
Megalodon Rainfall? Is that like a sort of a tie-in with the new film The Meg or something?
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely going to watch that one just to have a good laugh.
Sharknado 5 confirmed.
Hashtag sponsored.
Okay, so let's talk about graphics cards before we quickly wrap the show up. So last week we said that during SIGGRAPH they were announcing some of their sort of cards, and they showed off their brand new sort of professional card. This is NVIDIA, by the way, the Quadro. And now these cards, again, are for enterprise workstation applications only. However, as we know with previous sort of workspace sort of enterprise cards, the kind of features trickle down into the sort of consumer cards. So what we know is that we're likely going to get a new graphics card for consumers that's going to feature the Turing architecture, and that is likely going to sport the new virtual link connector for next-gen VR headsets, which will have power, video, and data all in one single USB-C style connector. And we mentioned that on a previous show as well. They teased a little clip and they hinted that they're going to be doing a full reveal in Cologne next week on Monday. So Gamescom actually kicks off on Tuesday for press. It's open on Wednesday for the public, but it's Monday that NVIDIA are hosting their reveal event.
Smart. I know why, by the way. Can I say why? Because I think if they announce it on Monday, they can, on Tuesday and on Wednesday, they can use those cards at every booth, because every game wants to use it. Battlefield, Metro, like everyone wants to advertise it. So I think that's why they go for one day up front, and then you can actually see the card, you can experience it, etc. I mean,
That would totally make sense. So the rumor is that the card is actually going to be called the NVIDIA RTX 2080. So it's going to ditch the GTX, it's going to move to RTX, and it's going to be called a 2080. And the reason for the RTX is because it actually now features ray tracing technology. And ray tracing is basically just a new technology that provides more advanced light rendering, just makes things look a bit more realistic, basically.
I just got to say, Mike, Rooster Teeth are not going to like that.
No?
They have an event called RTX that happens annually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's going to be happening on Monday. I've got some tickets for it, but whether I'll get in or not, because it's like a limited sort of person event and it's quite a small venue, so who knows? But hopefully, I'll have some news about it. We can talk about it some more next week in next week's episodes.
What do you do at that event?
It's just a reveal event. Like, it's open to some public. Press are going to be there as well. They're probably going to announce it, have some demo stations, play some games, have some
selfies.
drinks,
make selfies with a GPU. I mean, that's what you do.
That's
what I would do. I would make like selfies with the new GPU. Like, hey, I'm here with my new best friend.
Well,
hey.
if you follow us on Twitter and you see us with selfies with GPUs, you know we made it.
Yes.
So if you've got any questions, put them in the chat now, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can before we wrap this week's show up. But just a reminder that this is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show, live streamed every Saturday on this YouTube channel, Twitch, and on Facebook. You can tune into the show live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, 12 midday in Central US. If you missed the live stream, don't worry, we re-upload it every Sunday to this YouTube channel. And you can check out the audio version, which is available on Google Play Music, iTunes, and on SoundCloud. If you're not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe and click the notifications button so you'll get notified when we go live on next week's episode. So fire away if you've got any questions. I'd love to know.
I see a lot of people asking, like, are the miners going to buy every card again? Is that still like a thing? Are they still like hunting every card out there, or is that not really?
The price of cryptocurrency dropped. It's kind of like plateaued a bit now. So the interesting mining has kind of dissipated now, and graphics cards, you can kind of get hold of them again. But yeah, there were some dark times when Bitcoin was like hitting 14 grand or something ridiculous. You couldn't get one for love nor money. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Why is Nate wearing a giant black bra on the FReality banner?
Is he?
I don't know. Like, I need to check.
Okay, we must have missed this in our quality assurance.
I see. It kind of looks like that. That's my Borat bra.
Yeah. Your Borat bra, even that made it not better. That made it even worse.
He needs a bit of support, He needs support.
I know. Now, working out in VR, those muscles become bigger and bigger. It's hard.
Being a VR only YouTuber is not easy, It's not easy.
I didn't get to see much about it, but I saw it. You said Borat, and it immediately put me onto some VR news relating to Steve-O from the Jackass crew.
Yeah.
Doing a VR series. I am nervous about that combination because Steve-O's not the spring chicken anymore.
Oh, you haven't watched it?
He needs to know. Oh, so it's actually something else.
Yeah. You can watch it.
Yeah, the first episode is out. It's a 360 video. You can watch it in VR, and it's hosted by Steve-O and Pontius, I think his name is. I can't remember his name. He was one of the original Jackass crew as well. Basically, like, one of the first things Steve-O did was he climbed up a ladder with a Vive on that wasn't even plugged into a computer and just leapt off it onto a table. I was like, What is this?
It was one of those like shows you usually see on TV where they show you funny moments. I didn't really get the concept of it. He was just talking to the camera, and then every time it was in a different location, and he was like, "Oh, check out these funny moments," and then you were just watching some funny moments. I don't know what.
I'm gonna say something a little bit maybe. Sorry, Steve-O, but it seems like you're trying to grab for relevancy by hooking onto VR and saying like, "Hey guys, pay attention. This is something that's new and cool," and I'm just going to throw myself off a ladder. It doesn't seem that...
They should just replicate that scene they did in Jackass where they have like those golf carts and they destroy the entire court in like a 180 or something. I would love to watch that. Like those old school moments, like reliving that again. It's great. Or the alligator inside the house, where they call the parents like, "Hey, there's an alligator in your house," They're like, "What the heck?"
So Mike, you've seen it?
Yeah. I watched that.
Is it just that it's a 360 video format, or is there actually, other than the ladder climb and jump, is there any like him in VR performing stunts.
Yeah. They play some games in VR and they're just amazed by the technology, and they do some they've got great production values because they've got a team behind them and they've got a mixed reality studio and stuff like that.
Good.
So it looks kind of cool, but I didn't actually watch it in VR. I just watched it on YouTube by moving around the screen with a 360. But yeah,
He plays Mind Show.
He did play Mind Show.
So,
yeah.
So it's really just like a one-up for VR then, because it's just another popularity booster, more people,
in a way
exposure.
it is.
More exposure. Yeah, it's always good. Yeah.
So even that you might think he's grabbing for relevancy, it's still good for the industry in a way. I think.
And a couple of guys are asking in chat. They've asked it a few times now. Sorry, I didn't pick it up. Are you guys planning to do a live podcast from Gamescom?
We won't be doing it from Gamescom, no, because it'll just be the two of us there. We'll just be streaming as usual next Saturday. But, we're all going to be at Oculus Connect 5 together in the future, so maybe we'll do something there. We're not quite sure yet, but we'll let you guys know as soon as we figure it out. Yeah. So that is the end of this week's show. I hope you guys and girls have enjoyed this one. Hope you all have a great week in the metaverse. And until next Saturday, have a good one, and we'll see you then. So until then, bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.